There's a subtle shift that happens the moment you imagine someone reading your words, even if you never show them. You adjust things, you choose safer sentences, you leave certain thoughts out. You make your feelings sound more reasonable, more explainable. Not because you're being dishonest, but because you're aware. And that awareness changes how honest you can actually be. Most of us are used to explaining ourselves to friends, to family, even in our own heads. Why we feel a certain way, why something affected us, why our reaction makes sense. We are constantly translating our inner world into something that can be understood. And over time, that becomes automatic. So when you sit down to write, you don't just express, you prepare to be understood, even if no one is there. This is where journaling can quietly become something else, a place where you don't have to explain anything, not your tone, not your contradictions, not even your confusion. You don't have to make your thoughts sound logical. You don't have to justify why something mattered to you. You can write something incomplete, something unfair, something you're not even sure you agree with fully, and let it stay. Because the page isn't asking you to defend yourself, it's just holding what's there. There's a kind of relief in that. But it can also feel unfamiliar at first. We are so used to being understood that we forget what it feels like to simply exist in our own words, without editing them, without preparing them. If you think about it, how often do you allow yourself to feel something without immediately trying to make it make sense? Not often. So when you begin to write like this, it might feel slightly uncomfortable. You might hesitate, you might catch yourself trying to clarify something even when there's no need to. That's the habit. And noticing it is part of the practice, because when you stop explaining yourself on the page, something deeper begins to show up. Not cleaner, not more structured, just more real. Your thoughts don't arrive fully formed, they don't follow a neat sequence, they overlap, they contradict each other, they shift mid-sentence. And when you allow that, you're no longer writing to be understood, you're writing to stay close to what you actually feel. That changes the relationship completely. The page stops being a place where you organize your thoughts for clarity. It becomes a place where you can be without needing to resolve anything. If you've ever held something back while writing, something you felt but didn't put into words, you'll recognize this. There's always a reason. Maybe it felt too unclear, too personal, too difficult to explain, so you moved around it. But what happens if you don't? What happens if you let that thought exist on the page exactly as it is without trying to make it acceptable? Not to anyone else, not even to yourself. That's where writing becomes private in the truest sense. Not hidden, just untouched by the need to be understood. So it doesn't have to be about, does this make sense? It can be about, what would I write if I knew no one would ever read this and I didn't have to explain it to anyone? Just notice what changes when you let go of that imagined reader. Because sometimes the most honest page is the one that doesn't try to be understood at all. It just lets you exist in your own words without interruption, without adjustment, and without needing to turn yourself into something that makes sense to anyone else.